Mark Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only livestream Crafting Icewind Dale, in which I build, write, and prepare for a next session of a Rime of the Frostmaiden. If you are playing characters of Robin, Frey, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed, this video is not meant for you and will be full of spoilers for our campaign. But for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. Watch all of our D&D live series as well as reviews on my YouTube channel and read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. You can follow me on Twitter at roguewatson and join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you would like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/roguewatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. We are finally done with Sunblight. That was a long time. I think our single longest section of the campaign so far, which makes sense because it was a gigundo, I guess mega dungeon, right? Would you call Sunblight a mega dungeon? I mean, 3 floors, over 30 rooms. I mean, it's not Undermountain, but it's one of the biggest dungeons, aside from, I think, the Caves of Hunger is the only other giant one in terms of single areas. So yeah, 6 sessions, pretty damn good, and I loved every single second of it. I think it had some of the best moments of the campaign and was just super good all the way through. Now what I have to do is prepare one of the trickiest chapters of this entire campaign, I think, and that is chapter 4, Destruction's Light, which is literally a very tiny chapter in the book. I want to say it's literally like 10 pages maybe. It starts on 187 and it ends on 196. So yeah, it's 10 pages long. It's a 10-page chapter. And it's just the dragon destroying 10 times, which there are some cool handouts for this, by the way, some cool art. Look at that. Fucking awesome. Dragon is coming through, just fucking destroying shit from the air like a fighter plane just doing strafing runs. Like, that's crazy. I forgot to do my hellos. Hello, Jay, Sir, Sean, it's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're back. Nick, Lumpy, Nathan, good day. Good days, mornings, evenings, whatever, everybody's good. So this is going to be a tricky one to plan for because there's just not a whole lot of information to work off of. They do have the Dragon's flight plan information, which I need to remember where that is. Let's see. Where is that information? Where did I put that? Player handouts. Yeah, Dragon's flight path. Okay. So the players have this information. I apologize if the way Roll20 blows it up, it kind of cuts it off with the overlay I've got. But the dragon basically flies. First of all, we have to talk about the fact that the players did successfully slow the dragon down. And Chris even said that to the effect in Frostside chat last week, was like, hey, did what we do actually matter? And if you recall, those of you that watch crafting know that I had that same concern. I was like, hey, I want to make sure that what they're doing matters, because they did spend, 2 sessions essentially with half the party splitting up, specifically trying to slow this dragon down with the ice gate. And I think that blood, sweat, and tears is absolutely needs to be rewarded. I haven't worked out exactly what that means, other than the fact that I absolutely want to allow the players to get a long rest. They desperately need one. It has been like 10 sessions since they had a proper long rest, which is fucking crazy. they're so, I can't believe they put up with me. And I need them to get a long rest while at the same time trying to be reactive about, like, hey, you guys, there's this dragon that's going to take off, and it's not... yes, the steel doors are going to stop it, but for how long? Is it really going to spend hours, like, melting through things? Or is it going to get out within an hour? Like, what does that actually mean? And ultimately, whatever it means is the part that makes it the most narratively interesting and hopefully decently balanced. But I do want to kind of destroy a little bit of 10 towns because I think that serves the story better. is if 10 towns, which has already been in the grip of this, endless winter, which is really awful. And in my campaign, not as bad because I haven't had it last for years like it is in the book, which I thought was just apocalyptic. Instead, it's been going on for a couple months now, and it's starting to get, worrisome. So I want to destroy some of 10 towns and make it really crazy. So initially the dragon goes to Dugan's Hole and destroys it. Great. I see no problem with that. Nobody gives a shit about Dugan's Hole, not even Dugan. There's like 12 people there, and the player's never been there. You can easily wipe Dugan's Hole off the map. Goodmead, obviously we have spent some time in there, a lot of time. We met a lot of NPCs, so destroying Goodmead would be pretty, probably full of mixed emotions, because the players basically worked really hard to save the town, even though they kind of damned the brewery, but the brewery's already kind of damned, blah, blah, blah. So that would be a more impactful loss for sure. Honestly, we've hit up most of these towns on the eastern seaboard right here. They're probably more important than any of the other towns we've got, which is Goodmead, East Haven, Caer Dineval, and Caer Konig. We had all the big side quests there and a bunch of NPCs that we met and interacted with. Probably Caer Konig might have the most memorable NPCs from there. I guess Tourmaline and Targos, we had the speakers that were recognizable. I guess we can talk about the book in terms of how the dragon. It's mainly these pages itemize the length of time the dragon is there and what exactly it destroys, and then how it moves on. So that information is there. But what's really kind of missing here is what the fuck the players can do in this entire chapter. So I think that needs. That's what I'm going to have to be working on, essentially, is giving the players a chance to do things. I mean, it's tricky because this is going to be a very open-ended chat. When you're in a dungeon, you give the players, okay, here's your room, blah, 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 and then they do whatever. But here, it's just kind of an open world, like, okay, what do you guys want to do? Here's a whole fucking town or a series of towns. What do you want to do? Wipe Dugan's Hole. No, don't. Wipe it off the map. That's all I'll say. That's funny. I mean, the jokes just write themselves. You can't name a town Dugan's Hole. Come on, man. Who's doing that? Who's doing that? Let's go to the Icewind Dale map. Show me the map. Which, yeah, here's the route we took to get to Sunblight. So, also in my campaign, I've changed the travel time and sped it up because, coming off of a hex scroll from Tomb of Annihilation, I was very mindful of how long it took just to travel, and I did not want to recreate that in Icewind Dale. And I think I've learned a lot in terms of how to structure random encounters and what their purpose is and all that. And I just, I think you can run one meaningful random encounter per point A to point B, and that's good enough. So I've sped up the travel times on land for the players, especially now that they have a vehicle. They can essentially travel as if it were just normal traveling conditions, which is 3 miles an hour or 24 miles in a day. So if they literally want to just rush to Dugan's Hole and try to fight this dragon immediately, which is kind of what I think they were talking about initially, then you're probably taking the wagon. Let's see, if we want to actually itemize, like, literally how long it's going to take them. So let's say there's an hour right there. Literally putting the blinker on the map. There's 2 hours. There's 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, a little over 6 hours to get to Dugan's Hole. What I considered doing is, okay, if you guys literally want to do it like, which I kind of don't want them to do. I don't really want to have them necessarily chase the dragon around like groupies at a band or something. Like, oh, the dragon's going to be in this town, let's make it, and follow the dragon. I mean, I guess you can try to mess with the dragon at any time, but I think it might be more interesting if they make it to, let's say they do want to go to Dugan's Hole and the dragon's already there and already destroyed things. I think that's more impactful if you show the dragon's destruction first, and then maybe when you get to one of the bigger towns, I actually need to replace East Haven with one of the bigger circles. Can my players delete these things? Then you can have an actual showdown with the dragon. And I think it'd be especially cool is if you turned the dragon into this multi-stage boss fight in terms of like when you first meet the dragon. I don't think that should be the one encounter with the dragon. I think you can encounter the dragon, maybe somebody takes pot shots at it, but honestly, I don't even necessarily want to run the dragon, at least initially, as a traditional combat encounter. You know what I was thinking of, for those of you that watched our Tomb of Annihilation campaign, when the players first encountered the one dragon in that campaign, which is, I think, it's a young red dragon. I forgot the name, Zinder or something like that, the one in the mine. God, it's only been, I guess it might have been 3 years now. When the dragon first appeared, I had it. So spoilers for Tomb of Annihilation campaign. Sorry if you haven't watched that campaign or interested in it. I'm going to spoil it for a hot second. Spoil it kind of somewhere in the middle of the campaign. But when the players acquired the ships and were going down, they dealt with all the pirates and they were coming up the southern end to go do the whole mine quest. I had them meet the dragon by having the dragon come out and just attack them from the sky and basically destroy their boats and ground them and, just have a cool way of introducing the dragon. And it was not, I don't think I ever had the players actually roll for initiative. It was just, hey, this dragon's coming in, doing strafing runs with its fire breath and then flying out of range. There is no actual combat here. It's just, it's an environmental hazard that you have to deal with. And that's kind of what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking the best thing to do is to run it like a disaster movie. Like it's a giant monster disaster movie, like a Godzilla thing. And the normal people on the ground aren't fucking fighting Godzilla. You might have some fighter jets swoop by or something, but like you're not, they're doing other things, right? They have other objectives that they're doing, and it's the other giant monsters we're fighting, which is why I'm inspired to try and maybe introduce Oral in the flesh, so to speak, that way, by having her literally be the other monster. And maybe I can even do something where like they need to somehow summon, maybe they make it to East Haven and the Frost Druid's like, hey, you need to take this artifact to the top of a town or something and then plant it and do, give them like some objective they can do, and that should call, Oral's avatar or something to help defend us. And that's how we're going to bring, maybe instead of having the Frost Druid doing it and having the player arrive, give the players a chance to accomplish that goal and say, this is the only way we can, have a chance at defeating this dragon, is having Auril herself try to show up and battle it, which I think would be pretty effective. Thank you, Jay. That was a 2+ year long campaign, I think. And honestly, we might be looking at that for this. Although I will say, I think Act 1 might have, in a weird way, might have been our longest act. We'll see, because the notes that I have, we covered so much in Act 1. And my notes, I feel like the players are actually going to level up pretty quick, because the way I've got it structured, I want to actually get to tier 3 at the end of this campaign, and still have Ithrin be basically the finale, although I'll probably be adding some stuff there. Which means once we basically get to Destruction's Light and beyond, that's going to be the part you're going to see a lot of homebrewery stuff from me, because I'm way expanding the middle act of this campaign, which is the biggest lack of content. Now you can take quests from Chapter 2 and put them in Act 2, which is absolutely what I'll be doing. Namely, obviously we've got Dark Duchess, which I've already introduced to the players. They haven't done it yet. Id Ascendant, which unfortunately with Celeste's death, that's going to make it a little tricky, but depending on the choice that she makes, if the players, which we have to talk about that also, our house rules say that you can basically just purchase a resurrect, which, that's how D&D video games and stuff works. You can raise the dead for 1,000 gold pieces. They've already got her body. She's a spore servant. Assuming she's willing to play that character some more, then they can go to a priest and pay that much money. Now, I would at least argue that they would have to go to one of the big cities. You got to go to East Haven or Bryn Shander, one of these bigger ones to do it. And you've got a WMD bearing down on you, so it'll be a little tricky to work that out. But it's still possible. But if nobody's asked about it yet, but that Celeste will absolutely be resurrected and come back. And that's it. They just had to be out that much money, and essentially she had to play a Spore Servant for a couple sessions, which could be memorable. Or maybe she's like, whatever, I'll play a new character. It's kind of up to her, and she's still deciding at this point, I'll say. I'm not confirmed anything one way or the other. So Id Ascendant might be on the back burner for a hot second, because I was initially going to give them that Id Ascendant quest as they were leaving Sunblight, because it's in this area. But with her death, it doesn't make any sense that I would actually do that. Now, what's interesting is if she gets resurrected, that could be a way, because I was initially going to use the Mind Flayer and Sunblight, but they didn't want to play ball with that, so okay, all right, I'll back off on that. But maybe her death will have allowed her to, send something in the astral plane, or in other words, get the location pinging or something where she can find Id Ascendant that way. But my plan is always to have, obviously, Id Ascendant tied to her, because that was the ship that abducted her. The only thing that would suck kind of is if she ends up not wanting to play that character again, then Id Ascendant becomes this weird kind of epilogue thing where I can just introduce it as a random encounter, and the player's like, oh, okay, so that's what that was about, But I have a feeling she'll want to. I cried when Celeste died. Oh, I'm sorry. Frey was real close too, man. That was nuts. Oh my goodness, that was nuts. I don't even know if I had to have 2 player deaths at once, having never really gone through any of them. But again, it's, death is a weird temporary thing in this universe. If you have the money and the means, you can resurrect people. So I don't see any reason why they can't just lug her Spore Servant body, to the nearest big town and pay up the money, which, as if you watch that session, they'd all just got a huge payday with a shit ton of really valuable, expensive items. So they'll have to give some of that up to resurrect her, but that is the cost. So anyway, what was I talking about? So Dark Duchess, Id Ascendant, Lost Spire of Netheril, which is, I'm going to kind of tie into the main quest a little bit, because obviously I'm playing up the whole Arcane Brotherhood thing, which, if you recall, Edmund has to make one more, I believe, successful investigation check, I think it is, to unlock the location there. So that'll be another place they can do. So I'm planning on, literally after they deal with the dragon, leveling them up to 7, which very much means they might only be level 6 for a few sessions, which seems very fast, because by my notes, we have, we've been level 5 for, was it 7 sessions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know, I've been level 5 for 10 sessions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so we've been doing 10 sessions for 4 and 5, which is pretty long. Now, granted, we're, when I say sessions, it's our length sessions, so it's, about 2.5 hours, and it's not 4-hour sessions, but still, that's a long time. Versus, in my notes, I was just going to have them level up after dealing with the dragon, which tells me I need to spread this whole dragon thing out to a couple sessions. So that's what I need to be planning, is I need to give the players content, basically, out of these 10 pages that I have to last at least a couple sessions, and hopefully make it pretty meaningful and fun, and maybe bring in a lot of these old NPCs and kind of treat it like a chance for the players to really be heroes. Something I like a lot about the Marvel superhero movies especially is that they really do play into the fact that heroes save people. And they don't just beat up villains the whole time. They're actually actively saving people. And I really would like to see the players do that here, is a chance for them, because, when you're going through dungeons, you really feel like you're just doing the hack and slash, which is fine. I totally love hack and slash. I love that in video games. I like that as a thing. I love dungeon crawls. I love all of that. But I really like to give the players a chance to be like, okay, these towns are actually under attack. They've either just been attacked and thus they need help. You can have them deal with the whole refugee crisis. I believe it says when the dragon's attacking, that all these people start making their way to, I think, I know bare minimum they all go to Bryn Shander, but I think they also go to maybe East Haven. Oh, we can also look at, here we go. This is the actual breakdown of what happens. The Dragon's Flight path map shows the Dragon's Flight path, which the players do know. And according to this, to go from Sunblight to Dugan's Hole, it takes 2 hours. In fact, I think I wrote this down. The Destruction's Light. So Dugan's Hole, it destroys every structure in town, including the docks, in 30 minutes. Half the population are killed. There's 25 people. The survivors flee to Bryn Shander. I think they all generally start fleeing to Bryn Shander. So Dugan's Hole is just completely destroyed. That would actually be pretty effective. You just get to Dugan's Hole and it's just a fucking wasteland. There's not much there. They had no defenses. They're just annihilated. Spends 30 minutes. Good, which I don't know what time of day the dragon actually took off. The dragon doesn't rest. Players are going to be resting. I don't know what time of day they arrived in Sunblight. I forget all of that. I'd have to go back and check like what time they arrived in Sunblight to what time it is out. I mean, we spent so many sessions in Sunblight, like I haven't had to keep track of the actual, outside clock in terms of the day-night cycle. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I can move the time to wherever most effective it is. Maybe it starts off, is it cooler to have the dragon attack at night or during the day? Well, it's always night, isn't it? It's always going to dark here. So good mead, the dragon spares the mead hall, but destroys every other structure in town in 1 hour. The fucking irony of that. 25 people, a quarter of the population are killed. The survivors flee into the woods before veering toward the east way and following the road to Bryn Shander. Most of their livestock with them. The dragon takes no damage. Dragon wipes the Dugan's Hole. Thank you for that. Yes, indeed. So Goodmead is basically destroyed. It takes an hour for it to destroy Goodmead. So if the players... And here's an interesting argument, is what if the players wanted to, like, do some of the long resting while traveling? I don't think I've ever actually allowed that. Usually you have to stop and camp. The problem is, if the... I don't know. How do y'all feel about the long rest situation here? Because the players need to long rest. We're leveling up to 6. It needs to happen. My question is just, do I let them just straight up long rest in Sunblight and just say, hey, the dragon escaped 4 hours ago, which means it's ahead of you guys. If you leave right now, it's ahead of you guys by 4 hours. And I just mentioned the fact that it's going to take them 6 hours to get to Dugan's Hole. So I could try to basically do things like that. What I would like to do, I think it would be interesting, is if I created a consistent schedule and they decided, okay, we could go straight to Dugan's Hole just to see like what it looks like and everything. But looking at this schedule for the dragon, then we'll have to go ahead somewhere else. I mean, if you look at the map, though, once you go to Dugan's Hole, you might as well at least go to Goodmead. And then you have to make a choice whether you even want to go up here or not, which unfortunately means it's less impactful because... Care Down to Volunteer Conning is where we've got some NPCs that we know and recognize. But are you really going to go up there and try to stage a last stand? Or are you going to really make it in East Haven or Bryn Shander, which is probably more than likely where it's going to happen. Yeah, and obviously I don't plan on having any encounters for them because it just feels anticlimactic or anything, which is weird because the player's going to be long rested. So the kind of events I want them to be able to do is almost more like skill challenge type stuff. Like, hey, there's like, houses collapsing and people need, healing and, you need to help direct them and maybe find people that are missing, like really trying to dig into the hero stuff and give the players, which I know my players, I need to throw problems at them rather than just say, hey, what do you do? Because that's not really how they operate. So I need to throw a bunch of problems at them so that they can respond by making, checks and whatever they need to make. And just a chance to show off their heroism and hopefully minimize a lot of damage, help people, get people to hopefully they'll realize Bryn Shander is the place to go, which I would probably freely give them that information. I'll be like, hey, recall Which I don't know if does East Haven actually have. I don't know if East. I know Bryn Shander and Targos both have actual walls and defenses. I don't remember if East Haven does or not. Let's look at East Haven. East Haven does not. I think it just has a lot of people. 750. Yeah, they've got a muster up to 150 soldiers and 12 veterans. Okay, whereas Targos and Bryn Shander are both bigger and have walls. Got a Gabo and a gnome to drive while they sleep. They do. That is true. Turns over the cart. Could let them rest, but roll a con save to avoid a level 1 exile. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, give them some kind of... I feel like there should be... Because otherwise, wouldn't you just do that all the time? You'd be like, yeah, let's just go and long rest. So I feel like there should be a little bit of a penalty for that. Or yeah, stupid elves. I don't really have to sleep. Oh, great. I'm a superior species. Up rest normal. Cart rest is uncomfy. Or yeah, straight up just give them 1 exhaustion. Right, that's exactly what I'm looking at, Lumpy, is shit like that. Like, basically, what would happen in, like, actual monster disaster stuff? What can people on the ground do? Because my plan is not necessarily, which I think I would like them to go to the post-destruction towns first, to give them a chance of the destruction they're facing and the seriousness of the situation before they actually meet up with the dragon and meet up with resistance, which timing-wise, I think it would be great to have that first meetup be in East Haven, and I kind of like the idea of meeting up with that Frost Druid, whom I completely forgot her name, but the one that Valrobin hated and was basically running the towns back into being oral worshippers, basically, like Dark Ages kind of shit. But to her credit, like, she would have a legitimate, like, maybe they see her like channeling power of Auril and that helps repel the dragon, and she says, this is, I'm using the last bit of my strength to summon her, you need to take this. And if the players don't already realize it, she'll be like, the best chance you have of stopping this thing is going to be in Bryn Shander. They've got the best defenses, summon Auril in Bryn Shander and bring down their, and that would give the players then a chance to travel to Bryn Shander. Yes, all those other towns are going to get fucking destroyed, but oh well, because I think Bryn Shander is literally the last stop, and then summon the avatar there, and then have the Bryn Shander showdown be the final battle. I think that would be a really compelling look at it, but obviously that's if the players do exactly what I want them to. Level 1 exhaustion is not that bad, although I will say this is an opportunity for a lot of skill checks here. But also keep in mind, this is probably going to be a multi-day affair. Like, how many days does the damn dragon actually spend doing this? Right? Like, if it's, it spends... did I close that window? That's my house rules window. Dragon attacks. So, it takes 2 hours to get to Dugan's Hole. It spends half an hour, which again, I can play with this time as much as I want. Spends half an hour destroying Dugan's Hole. God damn it. I hope they had a really great laugh at Wizards when they came up with. I guess that's has that been the name for forever. I don't know Forgotten Realms lore and history, but that's fantastic. It spends another 30 minutes. So we're at 3 hours now. When we get to Goodmead, it spends an hour destroying Goodmead, so that's 4 hours. From Goodmead to East Haven, now we're at 5.5 hours. And at East Haven, it says it takes 8 hours at East Haven. So that tells me you're basically catching the dragon at East Haven. That's interesting. So it takes a long... East Haven's way bigger than the other ones. It catches the town by surprise. The militia reacts quickly and succeeds in wounding the creature. The dragon uses its radiant breath weapon to strafe the town from the air, never landing. What is the range of that thing? What is the range on my Shadowland Dragons here? The range of its breath weapon. Radiant Breath has a range of 120 feet. It's just a laser from the sky. And it's got a 90-foot flight range. So this thing is just a fucking jet engine compared to the normal speed of players. And with 120 feet is pretty high up, although not insurmountably high. I mean, what is a like? What is what am I thinking of? Like a longbow. I know Eldritch Blast and shit's like 120 feet, so technically that's in range of that. But what's like the average dude firing a bow? Not efficiency. I need the actual item, please. Yeah, you've got not even disadvantage in 120 range, so easily you can be firing shit at that range. Well, it's not like up in the stratosphere melting down. It's gonna have to. It's coming in hot. Starts at the east end and works its way westward, clearing streets and obliterating homes. Takes 8 hours. The dragon destroys half the town's structures, including most of the docks. The White Lady Inn partially collapses when the dragon flies through it and the wet trout is raised. You know, their shitty thing is I don't have maps for any of this stuff, so I'm gonna have to come up with at least a couple maps so that the players aren't, because we're playing on Roll20 and I want them to be engaged. And if you just say a bunch of skill checks and look at this Icewind Dale map the whole time, you know, and that one map of that cool picture of the dragon coming in, I think I'm going to lose them. So I think at a couple point, and I do have a good excuse with the fact that, in fact, even mentions right here in East Haven, you've got fucking like sleeper cells of Dwergers just hiding out, ready to attack, just to add insult injury. So that's a great way of adding combat to this whole affair, even though we just dealt with a shit ton of Dwerger before. But having it be in the context of like having to save people, I think is interesting. Town Hall in the East Haven Ferry are spared. 250 people, 1/3 of the population, including most of the town's militia, are killed. Captain Arlagoth is slain by 2 invisible dwarves. Oh, that'd be cool, because that's the captain that actually gave them the journal that Dazan, that Edmund's deciphering. I could have that be a cool cinematic. 500 survivors flee on foot to Bryn Shander. Literally all the towns are fucking destroyed. Like, this is so huge. They're just wiped off the fucking map. That's true. Thimbleweed has a short bow. Good point. Good point. He's alive and present when the dragon attacks. Speaker Aurelian is killed when 6 Dwarger storm the town hall and confiscate any Charlatan they find there. Which is weird, because that was the whole thing that they already did. That's got to be a weird mistake, because we just did the Charlatan Caper. Well, I guess you maybe didn't necessarily run the Charlatan Caper, but I did. They wouldn't necessarily go after that again. Or maybe they would, because the other guys died. Attack on East Haven, reduce the dragon's hit points by 10. Man, yeah, I don't even... If it's flying in the air, like, I don't know. It's not insurmountable. It's 17 AC, 150 hit points. It's not huge. I mean, Zardarak had 100 hit points, and I gave him another bunch, and they still kicked his ass. But if this thing is flying most of the time, that gets real tricky, because you don't want to dumb down your cool flying monster thing, but also, if most of the players can't really do anything, that does make it a little bit lame. So I think probably the first time they fight it, it'll be flying around being a pain in the ass, but then the whole idea will be they'll get that, artifact from I can't remember that fucking frost druid's name. And she can summon Auril, and that I think I'll use that giant owl, the rock, but it'll be an owl that'll swoop in and attack it, and then hopefully the idea will be it'll at least ground the dragon, so that we can turn into kind of just a big boss dragon fight. It'll still be hopefully pretty hard, although the players probably will still be fairly well rested compared to what they did before. I mean, it's got some immunities and resistances, but players all have magical weapons by now. They're probably still going to have to deal with Celeste being a Spore Servant until the end of this chapter, which would be kind of mean on my end, but I guess death has to have consequences, and I don't know if they're really going to be able to get a resurrection anywhere but Bryn Shander. Maybe that could be the other thing, is they go to East Haven and they try to get it, and they're like, we can't. Bryn Shander's the only place I can afford something like that. Like, well, we're going to get our other party member back. This thing's fun, though. Malevolent Presence is great, because it can just fucking turn townspeople into enemies. This is gonna be a really fun boss fight. Hopefully, fun boss fight when we actually get to it. Fire in the hole. So, day 1, if we really break it up into days, it leaves Sunblight, especially if the players do end up mostly long resting in Sunblight. Kind of tempted to let them do that. And then wake up and just be like, hey, the dragon, just left. You guys need to get after it. It just left like I don't know, just left, but 2 hours ago or something. Give the dragon a little bit of a head start. I think it would be effective. Although it's going to get more of a head start because the players can't fly as far as the dragon. So honestly, it could leave, I could have the dragon be stuck in there for close to 8 hours. Or, and maybe I could give them the choice. Maybe I give them the choice, the players, like, hey, if you guys want to get on the road immediately, you can long rest while traveling. You're all going to accrue a level of exhaustion doing that. Or, you can stay in Sunblight. But if they leave immediately, the dragon, see, I don't know how long that say that was 6 hours, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's about 6 hours to Dugan's Hole. I managed to go this far in the campaign without ever mentioning this freaking town, and now it's just all over the place. But the dragon makes it to Dugan's Hole in 2 hours. So even if they leave immediately, and I say, okay, the dragon's been delayed by 2 hours, they're still going to see that dragon like flying overhead way faster than they can travel. So maybe I'll still get my, hey, destruction of Dugan's Hole and Goodmead ahead of them, and then they can catch up to it at East Haven. So even if they decide to leave, I think I can get ahead of it. Research not gonna be here on Friday. I'm double checking with them currently. I just posted them earlier about asking about that just to double check, because they did mention the fact they're gonna be out on a vacay, which may be good timing because she is her character is currently a plant zombie. Which is interesting, because usually we take a lot of time leveling up, but if only half the party has to level up, then that's technically less time to do that. It would mean we have to divide that time up between 2 different sessions. So I think regardless of when the players leave, but I like giving the option. If like, hey, if you guys want to leave immediately, you certainly can, and they'll probably be accruing a level of exhaustion to try to rest while traveling. This is not like a train. You're also entrusting your goblin and Spellix. They also have Valin, by the way, and the Goliath Kapunuk with them, which they could all run as NPCs, or I could run them as NPCs, or in other words, in other ways, they can choose on how they want to do that. Spellix just wants to get the irony of Spellix trying to get back to 10 towns this whole time, only to basically reach 10 towns and be like, oh shit, this place is destroyed. Like, this isn't a good place to fucking end up at. So he's bad timing there for him. But that'll be divided up into basically days, because they'll go, Dugan's Hole, Goodmead, and then East Haven, and that's basically a full adventuring day to do those 3 sections. So what I can probably do is plan on coming up with some events for them to deal with that are hopefully decently meaningful, and really starting to get the ball rolling on the fact that this dragon is literally destroying entire towns and displacing people to where they have to leave. It's a refugee crisis, like literally. This dragon has created a humanitarian crisis for 10 towns, and everybody's just fleeing to Bryn Shander. It's interesting how they all just decide to flee. I guess because Bryn Shander's got the walls. I mean, East Haven's also big, but Bryn Shander's got the walls. And if the players, what nobody else knows except for the players is the dragon's flight path. So nobody else really knows about what's going on or anything, but the players could technically have the power to give people advance warning. So maybe that's something they try to do, although that would bite them in the ass, because eventually I think the players have to sleep too, and eventually the dragon doesn't. The dragon just keeps working. Because, day 1 it's doing Dugan's Hole, Goodmead, and East Haven. The players are going to have to rest at some point after all those hours in the day. But the dragon, it's a fucking Terminator, basically. It doesn't stop. It never stops. And doesn't have to sleep. It's a construct. So it would. I've actually been dividing up into days, and I'm probably shortchanging the dragon. It not has to rest after doing East Haven. So it's got. Let's see, what did I say? We're like 5, like I think it was like 6 hours, and then East Haven is 8 hours, so we're at 14 hours that since the dragon's been released. From East Haven to Caer Denival is an hour, so we're at 15 hours. Probably doesn't take very long in any of these places. Yeah, Caer Denival is an hour, so we're at 16 hours. A bunch of Dwerger pop out of there and also do a sleeper cell damage. Caer Konig, it takes an hour to get there, so 17 hours. Spends an hour and a half there, so we're at 18, maybe 19 hours. Oh, Trovis. He wouldn't be passed out drunk in a snowbank, though. I think he got a nice talking to from Frey. I would like to see Trovis survive. But I think everybody else says they die. Yeah, the sisters die. Aetana Swift, who I think was that the guide, dies. Arthur of Varzash, I don't know who that is. Oh no, Arthur and several of those are murdered by the Dwarger lurking in town. So we're at, I think, 19 hours. We go to Tourmaline. So now we're at 21 hours. If we really want to do the fact that like this thing is not going to stop to rest. Tourmaline takes 6 hours. Tourmaline is big. So we're at 27 hours. Reduce their hit point. I guess I can keep track of that a little bit, but it's not going to make much of a difference. 27 hours, 28 hours, 29. I think by the time we get to Targos, we're probably at 30 hours, because I don't think it spends any time at these back, which I never did Lonelywood or Bremen, so who cares? It might be a little above 30 hours. Actually, it takes 2 hours to destroy Lonelywood. And 2 hours for Bremen. All right, maybe we'll call it 32 hours. Targos, it takes 8 hours at Targos. Targos is big and with walls. Unfortunately, there are Dwarger saboteurs everywhere. Speaker, oh, that'd be great. Speaker Max Ildenar is alive and well and flees to Bryn Shander. Great, I like that. So we're at basically 40 hours. I think we want to say we're at 40 hours to get to Bryn Shander. From when the dragon leaves Sunblight to when it arrives at Bryn Shander, I think we're looking at 40 hours. Now, the players, they know the flight path, but they don't know, A, how long the dragon takes to get to each place. They don't know how fast it goes. And B, how long it takes to destroy each place. So even though they have the general flight path, they have no idea what the arrival and departure times are. So you're looking at, if we're looking at adventuring days being, what, an 8-hour day, you're looking at like several days from the player standpoint, because they're not going like the dragon is and just going nonstop flying around, not ever sleeping. They have to fucking, bed down at some point. Departure to arrival in Bryn Shander. And then in Bryn Shander, it stays there for 6 hours, remaining airborne the whole time. Wait, so it strafes the town for 6 hours, and then it lands for another 6 hours. The way I would do it is it strafes, and then that's when the players can hopefully do their big cool defense thing and summon Oral. I do want to do my small town Southern Lord voice again. I loved that character. That was a delightful character. Honestly, this is the season finale of season 1 of our campaign. This is where you bring in all of the old NPCs, all the old fan favorites, and have them hopefully show up and matter in the form of either the players show up in that town and meet them as survivors or as deaths, or meet them as refugees who have survived and fled their respective towns and have people with them, which maybe that's an interesting thing, is you can do a road encounter with refugees having been caught in a blizzard or something, or being waylaid. I guess there's not really bandits out here, but I don't know, maybe one of the towns are taking advantage of people and just, robbing them during this crisis. I don't know, something maybe, and maybe one of the events can be, people's trying to stop looters during. I can't imagine people are doing that too much during an actual like dragon destroying buildings thing, but people can be cheating a crisis. Although usually people actually come together in a crisis, and generally help each other. So, and this is as crisisy as it gets. Chandra benefits from strong leadership, a tested militia, and helpful spellcasters. In the first 6 hours, Dragon's hit point decreases by 10. Once the dragon lands, begin searching through wreckage. Its hit points decrease at a rate of 5 per hour. And that one has another. On the priest of Amun to administer. Okay, so there you go. I've even got the name of a priest that they can use to resurrect Celeste. Mishan, the priest of. I don't know how to pronounce that. Monitor. Ministers healing as best she can and survives without injury. Sheriff Markham Southwell personally thwarts a Dwarger assassination attempt against Speaker Duvesta Shane. Both leaders are scarred but survive. Nice. So, give me a list of good events, obstacles, challenges, things I can throw at the players throughout this. The dragon isn't real. Yeah, do like a don't look up / Exactly. Just the dragon deniers. No, that'll be right after the dragon destroys everybody. Everybody will be like, no, that wasn't how it happened. That dragon was just a tourist. That dragon was a fucking tourist in 10 towns. Just wanted to see the sights. Oh, god damn it. But anyway, so give me your best. Give me all your ideas. Let's brainstorm. Obstacles, challenges, events, scenarios that I can throw at the players, because I think that's what's going to be most effective for my players for running this chapter. It's going to be a lot of evocative storytelling, but that only gets you so far, I think, especially if you're playing in Roll20 when you're looking at maps. And yes, one thing I'll need to do is throw together at least some maps, although you don't really need a map technically unless you're going to do combat on it. But maybe there's a situation, I could always pull out the Goodmead map again and be like, it's part of it's collapsing and we were trying to renovate in there and you got to, save these people and turn it into like a multi-step, skill check kind of thing. And again, I might not even need a map for that, but I need to come up with a lot of these different scenarios. And then the main events I think I'm looking at are, I think I for sure need the players to go to East Haven to meet. I gotta look up that lady's name. I can't fucking remember it. Somebody help me out. What is the Frost Druid's name? I can't remember her name. You know what? What quest is she from? She's from the White Moose, I believe. Name. She's the one, because I'm not using the moose, but I'm using this. Hey, where are you? Arrow, full moon. I think it's from here. Ravison, that's her name. Ravison. Y'all made me had to look it up. Ravison is the Frost Druid. She would be the one that would meet at East Haven. An evil lich goat. An evil lich goat. My god. At some point, Valen will also tell the players her story, which this is an interesting part of the campaign that I'm very much changing because I think it's badly written, wherein essentially this NPC shows up and just tells the players about chapters 5, 6, and 7. Or at least chapters 5 and 7. I guess they don't realize what 6 entails. But she's just like, hey, I need your help. Yeah, to find an ancient city buried in the ice, the city Ethrin. We need to go there. And then she even says, okay, and to get there, it's in the glacier, but to get there, we need to crack it open. We need to go to Grimscala. Here's where Grimscala is. Like, literally just says everything else about the campaign, and that's awful. That's horrible. It's just a huge info dump. You just give all this shit to the players, and you leave them with nothing to do but just follow along on this string that you've fucking given them. That's bad design. bad wizards. No, don't. Better design is to have Valin give the first initial breadcrumb that the players need to follow the trail of clues that will eventually lead them to Grimskala and lead them to Ithrin and etc., etc. So my idea is to have Valin specifically give the players the information about Vaelish Gaunt. Vaelish Gaunt is a wizard who from the Arcane Brotherhood who came to 10 Towns to try to like establish the Brotherhood's presence here, and was basically just kind of a gangster criminal. Really like took over a racket and like a protection racket in Bryn Shander, and actually even was voted in the leader at one point. I think this is like in an old novel or something. And he was eventually thwarted and arrested and thrown into Revel's End. Now, that's public information. What's not so public is the fact that why he was doing this was because he was digging around and had been... I need to finalize my plans for this, but I think he was finding Chardalyn basically before anybody else really found it. And he had established this whole kind of underground laboratory to study it. And then in doing so, he was also able to find that there was something. I'm not sure how much information to give the players on this. Maybe I'll do a little bit more than maybe even Vaelish Gaunt knew, but essentially accidentally discovered Ithrin, or something buried in the Ragged Glacier. But before he could do anything about it, he was arrested. Now, he had a accomplice / lover in Ness Lantomir, who is another character from the book, who is just one of the arcane wizards who came here, and she was killed, and she has the Professor Orb. So in my campaign, she evades capture, returns to whatever Luskin, to the Arcane Brotherhood, steals the Professor Orb, which is very much just a MacGuffin in my campaign, steals this important artifact, returns to Icewind Dale, goes to the Arcane Laboratory because she's one of the few that knows about it, and applies this artifact to the lab. And that is what fucks everything up, because in doing that, she confirms the existence of Ether, and that's maybe she paints a full, like, cool 3D picture of it, and she's like, holy shit. But the result is Auril immediately also feels this, that somehow, somebody has found Ithrin, and again, in my campaign, she was originally a wizard, a Netherese wizard that ascended to godhood by drawing the power of the Mythalar, and that's what caused it to crash. She doesn't want anybody to know about any of that and wants to keep all that shit buried. So she freaks out and puts the whole place under lockdown, and meanwhile, the act of applying that Professor Orb to the Arcane Laboratory, I think I'm leaning towards the fact that it actually kind of exploded and destroyed Ness Lantomir's physical form, but not a incorporeal form that she gained. So I'm still kind of playing up with the ghost thing that she's got. And this also helps explain the gap I had with, wait, what has Ness Lantomir been doing this whole time? Because, in my campaign, this happened a couple months ago. Like, what has she been doing since then? And so my idea is, well, maybe she hasn't been able to leave yet. Maybe she was literally blown to smithereens and is now this... I'm kind of picturing the Dr. Manhattan when that originally happened to him, and he had to, like, coalesce and reform himself, in order to gain all his powers. He was essentially just this weird, like, ghost or limbic system or something at some point. And that's kind of what happened to her. Is I'm going to play up the fact that she actually gets really powerful by this resulting explosion. And I don't know what kind of stat block I'm going to use, but I want her to be kind of a cool, like, interesting BBEG, and maybe combine like Ghost and Wraith and some other ghostly type forms. But my plan was, Valin knows about Vaelish Gaunt, and maybe she did the legwork to discover that, okay, Gaunt was, while Dazan was like, oh, I'm going to try to just go off and, I've found things about Chardalyn, so I'm going to try to find out where that, maybe the mother lode is or something. And then Avarice, same thing. She's like, I want to know about Chardalyn, but I'm going to look at the people and start gathering the people together, and became ingratiated with that cult. Whereas Valin was like, I'm just going to look up Vaelish Gaunt and try to find as much information as I can. And same thing with Ness Lantomir. and maybe she discovers the location of the lab, and maybe that's where she was going when she was captured. So that's why maybe she was out and about. Which means, ironically, the players have to probably go back down to, somewhere not too far, because I don't think he would have his lab too far. Maybe like somewhere just north of, Sunblight down here. So in other words, that's the only information they'll got, and that's just going to be a completely new map, which I actually have a really cool map I plan on using for that, which is the Arcane Laboratory that Valish Gaunt had. And then you'll have that really cool classic scene from adventure movies where the players basically, find like a old magical place. They start it up again, very Indiana Jonesy, and then they get all the information of like, oh shit, here's, Ithrin, and here's where all the shit's going. And then Lantamir appears as a ghost form. And my idea is to have her possess Valin, and then she's able to leave because she can possess Valin as a physical form, and then she can cast all these powerful spells, maybe upgrade Valin and be like, oh, thank you, I was waiting for someone to come in here and, get me my way out. And then, of course, she summons a bunch of bad guys, and then Dimensions doors out of there or something. And they're like, oh shit, that's such a cool way to introduce this villain. And then and maybe the players learn, or she says, I've got, a prison break to get to or something. The fact that she would go and try to free Valish Gaunt from prison, and then it becomes this like cool ongoing plot where the players have to, follow and chase down Valin, and then Valin plus Valish Gaunt, and then they realize they have to go to Solstice, Grimskull, and all that. So that's how I'm basically seeding in the main quest, and expanding it is, again, just doubling down on the whole Arcane Brotherhood thing. Starting with the only thing in the map is Arcane Laboratory, and then they'll get the quest to go to Revel's End, and then probably from Revel's End they'll start learning about the Island of Solstice and the fact that you need the Codicil of White. Maybe they don't even know that. Maybe that isn't like Aural's main base or anything. Maybe it's just this hidden location where you've got this magical artifact that can crack open a glacier and get you the knowledge. So I haven't decided if I want to introduce another step in the quest chain to where they even have to know the location of the Island of Solstice yet or not. But that's still, prepping far in advance. But all of those things is going to be tier 2, because after Destruction's Light, I plan on leveling up to 7. And honestly, I have to check my notes again, but I think by the time, all the things I just talked about is going to be levels 8, 9, and 10. And I was going to have them reach level 11 after getting to the Island of Solstice, and then reaching 12 after completing Grimskala. So we're actually even going to get into probably tier 3 by the time we finish this act, because, Act 3 isn't that much stuff. It's basically just for me, it's Caves of Hunger and then Ithrin, although I do plan on expanding Ithrin a bit, but, we're going to have to get there. So we may end up leveling up a lot quicker in this part 2 than we did in part 1. All right, let me look over all the things you guys have been saying. Duke and Soul, you give them the option to save people 1 to 2 hours of lost time. Name goes for any small town. Larger towns take longer depending on the size. Dragon comes to Goodmead. Just local Boy Scouts are doing their annual ice sculpture contest. You just have to judge it before the dragon kills everyone. That's good. They did cram 3 adventures into 1, yeah. I chose this campaign because I liked those 3 adventures, but the campaign as written did not do a good job in actually incorporating those 3 adventures. It did a very poor job, in fact. I think it did a good job with the first one and seeding it in, through the open world quests and stuff, and like the Dwarger Outpost and East Haven Ferry and all that. I think that worked pretty well. But yeah, Act 2 and Act 3, it's just awkward how the character's like, hey, here's all the things you have to do for the rest of it. Like, what? There's no real plot here. So that's the part that I'm having to fix, which, thankfully I'm really excited about fixing it. Like, I think I've got some pretty good solutions, hopefully, that'll work out. Basically by doubling down on the Arcane Brotherhood. You have Valin send messages via magic to warn towns further down the line, allowing the towns to do more damage, take less casualties. That's true. Maybe if they realize, which I think, doesn't Valravn have the ability to cast something like that? That could be interesting if the players do have that forewarning knowledge. That message spell work. This is just a cantrip. Oh, it's 120 feet. That's right. It's the pointing the finger. I guess sending is the one that is one we're thinking of, which is a little bit more advanced. The gauntlet and her crown can weaken or can buy the party more time against the dragon. I don't know. I think I've played it up like Chardalyn doesn't actually do very well against Chardalyn, because like if Edmund tries to throw a Chardalyn band at somebody, they can just use Chardalyn, like rip it off or something. It's going to kind of do the opposite effect. You're throwing skill checks through the dragon's wake, leaving road trails, bridges destroyed, force the party to go off road, more rubble out of the way. Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of they use skill checks to, you know, save people and deal with crises versus having to just move through areas. You know, I don't know. Road encounters need to reflect the state. Well, I guess that would reflect it, right? If bridges are destroyed or those kind of things. Although, specifically, the dragon isn't just doing wanton destruction. It actually is programmed to specifically destroy 10 towns. So even if a dragon flew over a bunch of like people walking by, it wouldn't destroy them because it's not programmed to do that. Any chance you could record or stream Rochelle rolling a new character? If she wants to do that, then I can look into doing that. That hasn't been confirmed as something she wants to do yet, because I've mentioned the possibility of resurrecting her, of resurrecting Celeste. It probably will not happen next session, I can tell you that, because the party will most likely have to be in Bryn Shander and probably will have had to deal with, you know, the Dragon Crisis. But, you know, it could be a very awkward, like, hey, this whole dragon thing could last like 3 sessions, and then, you know, we're done with chapter 7, we've leveled up. Already we're done with 6, we're just going to level up to 7, and then we get to deal with other stuff, which I'm also going to introduce the whole Goliath thing, basically through Kapunik, in terms of, like, you know, he's a strong Goliath warrior, but obviously he would feel empathy for the people of 10 Towns as, you know, their neighbors, and be like, hey, we can, you know, go to my tribe and, you know, try and basically provide aid, you know, because you guys were fucked. So that would be a whole other pretty major side quest that I would introduce, because as written, there's kind of a little funny Hatfield McCoy thing going on with Wormdune Crag and Sky Tower Shelter, where they both kind of hate each other. They both have cool maps, but there's nothing like dungeony going on there. But there is some cool third-party stuff that I plan on doing, which is a whole fun side quest that involves a frost giant, and an ice dragon, a frost dragon, I guess, which could be a cool like proving task for the player. So all that would be a nice side, you know, to pepper in there while they're doing the whole Arcane Laboratory, Revel's End, Island of Solstice kind of main quests, as well as, you know, we've got It Ascendant, we've got Lost Spire of Netheril, so we'll do the whole Zon thing, which will be a really funny, real fun tease for Ithrin, because you'll have, you know, it's a broken off upside down tower of Ithrin. And Dark Duchess, which is a cool ancient Frost Dragon treasure hoard. So all of that coming up for Tier 2. But we'll talk about this more on Thursday for Thursday's crafting. But I think that will do it for this excellent late night Monday edition of Crafting Icewind Dale. If you enjoy the content, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Christopher Thomas, Adam, Stan, Nathan, Alex, William, I Am Loud, Al, Furcon, Kyle, Sklenia, and Genocider. Welcome to the Platinum patron level. And gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Didless of Lounge, Sam, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Blood Angel, Vernus, Babu Babu, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, and James. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you for our second edition of Crafting Icewind Dale on Thursday. Bye. Yeah, also combat with the Dwerger sleeper agents. Definitely have those in East Haven and Bryn Shander. Bare mins.